I got kicked in the head by a horse. I'm out of work. They said I have a cognitive deficit.
She had horses that were unsound. Her young horses were jumping and running in paddocks with huge boulders. It was unsettling. You understand.
You're welcome.
Dippenbrock.
Yes.
You bought a foal, which is a baby horse, in utero, which means that the horse had not yet had this foal, but you wanted to place an order for it, and Miss Austin is in that business.
Correct.
You entered into a contract. By the way, what is the gestation period of a horse?
Roughly 340 days.
And at what period in the horse's pregnancy did you enter into this contract with the plaintiff?
Roughly 3.5 months into the gestation.
Okay. Did you have a written contract?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'd like to take a look at it because this is a contract action. And it is your claim that you made a substantial deposit, over $3,000, for the horse, that when the horse was born, it did not meet the specifications of this contract. You wanted your money back. The defendant says that's not true.
Correct.
That the horse did meet all of the requirements of this contract. The one specifically that you're referring to is something in this contract, which I will read, I assume, that says that the horse must be, once born, insurable within the first 2 days or 48 hours of its birth, and that this horse was not insurable within 48 hours, and therefore you decided to terminate the contract. That's your position, correct?
Yes, Your Honor, I request.
And it's your position that the horse was in fact insurable. You say you can prove that because you did in fact get insurance on the horse within 48 hours of the horse's birth, and...
So...
No, don't... Your position is that you met the conditions of the contract.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. The deposit for 25% of the purchase price, the seller agrees to hold the foal off market exclusively for the buyer until the foal reaches 48 hours old and is deemed insurable. Well, does that mean that foal is taken from the mother and transferred?
No.
So the foal stays with the mother until it's how old?
I choose to wean at 6 months because they seem to be better adjusted if you wait until that period.
Okay, and it's not that you can't get insurance, it's that a live, healthy foal is defined as a foal that is deemed insurable at 48 hours old. And if the mare fails to produce a live, healthy foal, then the buyer may request a refund of the deposit or a credit towards another purchase. Okay, so the foal was born when?
June 9th, 2022 at roughly 5:30 in the morning.
Okay, your case, your proof.
Okay. So I had to find out the foal was born through Facebook.
Okay, whatever.
Never notified me. And then I went to see the foal when it was a day old on Thursday.
1 day old.
I mean, well, not even 12 hours old, basically.
Okay, so it was not a day old, it was 12 hours old.
Correct, I'm sorry, 12 hours old. June
Okay.
10th, she told me the vet would be out at 9:30 in the morning to do the routine foal exam. And I had requested to be notified of the results.
Just tell me about the contract. The foal is born alive and is how old now?
She turned 5 months old on the 9th of this month.
You have pictures of her?
I do.
I'd like to see. Oh, she's beautiful.
Thank you.
Have you seen her
I have.
recently?
No.
Would you show the plaintiff these photographs?
Yes.
Looks perfectly healthy to me.
I couldn't get insurance
Just
when
a
she
second,
was...
just a second. Looks perfectly healthy to me. And I'm not an expert, but you would say that that horse looks pretty healthy.
Yes.
Okay, great. So now the horse is 12 hours old, and tell me the rest.
So at 48 hours old, I submitted the vet report to 8 insurance companies, and they all declined to insure the animal.
Just a second. You submitted what report? Let me see the report, and let me see what you received.
Okay.
Did you furnish her with a report within 48 hours?
I furnished her with what the vet gave me. He did the vet exam at 24 hours old, but he had to draw blood and send it to a lab.
Okay.
And wait for that to
let
come
me.
back.
This first thing is dated June 12th, 2022. And this laboratory is sending the report to you, and it seems that they put the horse on a course of antibiotics initially for one day because something came back high. But it says, I do not believe all foals should automatically get antibiotics. However, I stand by our decision to treat what turned out to be a completely normal and healthy foal. We can pull follow-up labs to be sure, but her behavior since the blood sample backs up the lab results. Her behavior since the blood samples, what does that mean?
So for a foal to be considered doing well behaviorally, it needs...
What are you a doctor of, first tell me?
People. Internal medicine.
Okay.
For people.
Okay.
I brought an
You're the
expert witness veterinarian.
Okay. So now I have these test results, which I don't understand, and I'd like to see your reports from the insurance companies. How long was the foal on antibiotics?
She received 2 doses, one the day the vet came out, and then one the following morning before he got the blood test results back.
Which, when the blood test results came back,
They were normal.
They were normal.
Yes. And he said, don't give any more antibiotics. She does not need them.
And this report that you have from one insurance company, or from actually all of them, say underwriters have declined to provide coverage at this time and will reassess when the foal is off antibiotics. Well, the foal was off antibiotics within 2 days.
Mrs. Austin told me she was on antibiotics for 3 days, actually. And
Well, either 2 or 3 days, but then the test results came back normal.
The insurance companies, each of them will wait a certain amount of days. So that particular one wanted to wait 7 days to reassess after the foal had been off antibiotics. A few of the companies were 30 days, and I think one was 14 days.
Well, but that doesn't matter. All you need is one.
I was taking a risk with having an animal that's uninsured, and I wasn't ready to.
This is problematic for me. Because if I put a deposit down on something that I really wanted, and within 2 or 3 days, any question with regard to whether or not the animal was insurable or healthy, if my intention was to honor the contract, I would say, let's see if the results are normal or abnormal. Now, the results came back that the foal was perfectly healthy. So unless you had, in my view, something preconceived that you wanted out of this deal for some reason other than insurability, it's your horse.
I signed the contract based on the fact that she could be insured. The year before, I purchased another in utero, and that foal was insured at 24 hours old, and with the same type of contract. I wasn't going to enter
that's all right, but that's all, you understand what I'm saying to you. You understand what I'm saying to you, because my problem is, after I made the deposit, according to you, some things came to my attention that gave me anxiety. This is before the foal was even born. I learned about several of plaintiff's horses that had to be put down. She had horses that were unsound, lame, and missing eyes. Her young horses were jumping and running in paddocks with huge boulders. I also found out that she tried to sell the mare that was pregnant with my foal to a friend of mine. It was unsettling.
Correct.
Right. So I'm trying to just put this in chronological order for myself to understand whether there was a true breach of this contract. You have a counterclaim.
Yes, Your Honor.
For what?
When I originally got the notification from the court, I got kicked in the head by a horse on July 4th, and they had done testing. I'm out of work. They said I have a cognitive deficit.
What does that have to do with what you want?
Later.
So this is a picture of the car before he painted it?
No, ma'am, that's after.
Oh, it doesn't look bad.
From afar.
Listen, when you're born in 1964, everything looks better from afar.
For breach of contract.
The foal is born on the 9th of June.
Correct.
Was given a dose of antibiotics on the 10th of June.
Correct.
Because they were suspicious of something before the blood was drawn.
Correct.
Given another dose of antibiotics in the morning of the 11th.
Correct.
The blood results come back on the 12th, which indicates that the horse was totally normal, and you advised her, correct? That the
I
test
immediately
result...
forwarded the email to her, correct.
Okay, now the foal is 50 hours old, and you're told that the foal is totally healthy. I'm not sure that I'm comfortable with your position that there was a material breach of this contract. I think that a perfectly healthy horse was born, and it was within a reasonable period of time may not have been 48 hours, but if they were being very cautious in starting the course of antibiotics, you're the vet. Stand up and tell me if I'm not seeing something. The vet who saw the horse, was that you?
It was not.
Okay. Evidently decided that to be very cautious, they would await the blood test result on the horse, on the baby, and start a course of antibiotics that could be stopped if the blood tests came back normal, which they did within a day. Oh, I don't think that there's been a material breach of this contract by the defendant. I think that you're obligated. If she wanted specific performance, that's fine, but you're not entitled to your deposit back.
I have an email from the insurance company from the 21st when she finally told me that the foal was insured.
Just a second.
I can't take that risk for 2 weeks on an animal.
No.
Get insurance on.
No. But your problem is, it wasn't 2 weeks. Your problem was it was less than a day within adding it on to that 48-hour period. And I have to determine whether that was a material breach of the contract. Certainly, if the lab results came back that show that there was any deficiency in the horse, I would say absolutely you're entitled to your deposit back. But they did not. They came back and they said that a vet wanted to be very cautious, but the vet turned out to be wrong.
My contract didn't state anything about a vet.
I'm telling you, I don't find that 1 day was a material breach of the contract, because if you had then on the 3rd day sent the normal blood test results out to the same insurance company, the insurance company would have found that the horse was insurable.
They wouldn't, because they wanted to wait 7 days until the horse was off antibiotics.
Then you wait 7 days. That's still not a material breach. She's not asking you for the rest of the money.
So if something would have happened in those 2 weeks, I would have been out $9,000.
That is not
Just a second.
accurate.
You were not. You weren't going to take the horse until the horse was 6 months old.
I wasn't going to take the horse if it wasn't if it couldn't be insured.
Well, it could be insured. It turned out that the vet was cautious and you were wrong. And I believe that you had already made a decision in your mind.
I had not already made a decision.
Well, I find that there's not a material breach. You don't get your deposit back. Now, horse is yours. You have a counterclaim.
Yes, Your Honor.
For what?
$1,500 for my lawyer costs and another $100 to file the counterclaim.
For your lawyer's costs for what?
When I originally got the notification from the court, I got kicked in the head by a horse on July 4th, and they had done testing. I'm out of work. They said I have a cognitive deficit that they're working.
What does that have to do with what you want? I mean, I'm sorry about that, but what does
I
that have to
obtained a lawyer to represent me in court because I didn't know if I would be capable of representing myself.
Oh, well, but you are perfectly capable of representing yourself. You don't get your deposit back. So now you have a perfectly healthy horse that you can sell, and hopefully sell for the same amount that you sold it to the plaintiff for, and pay your attorney's fees. Do you understand? Because she lost her deposit. I don't think that there was a material breach of a contract with an extra 1 day to get normal lab results back. Your case is dismissed. We're done. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
As the judge read from the contract, as the seller, I assumed all risk on the foal until she was 6 months old.
Put a lot of money to make an investment in, and you want to make sure that your assets are covered and that the horse can be properly taken care of if something does come up.
Therefore, the argument that the buyer would lose anything if something happens to the foal is inaccurate.
I'm really happy with the 2 horses that I have, and I'll continue to stick with the ethical breeders that I know.
And the insurance that we obtained was based on the exam at 24 hours old. Therefore, we have proven that we upheld the contract.
So one interesting thing about that case is, as I was looking at the calendar of what day the horse was born and when the vet came out first and when the results came back, the horse was born on a Friday, and then the vet came out Saturday, and I was surprised that any lab sent labs back on a Sunday. So in a business that's so dependent on something you can't control, when the horse is going to give birth, why would the defendant put in her own contract a 48-hour, such a tight window for insurability for the horse? Maybe it's standard practice. I don't know standard practices for horses or anything like that.
You're right, it's a tight window. Yeah. And my guess is, although I could have asked the question, probably standard in that industry, I'm not sure. But it's interesting to note that in contract law, unless time is of the essence, there has to be some sort of material breach. And, you know, in this case, if the defendant had not had a vet come out and look at the horse for a week, well, that's a different story. She Had a vet come out immediately. The vet was super cautious. Vet turned out to be ultimately, thankfully, mistaken that there was nothing wrong with the horse. Got a clean blood test, but the plaintiff had already determined that she had buyer's remorse with regard to this deal. There was another agenda there because the horse looked beautiful as it turned out, 5 months old, and a beautiful animal, and it was perfectly clear within 60 hours.
And the defendant seems to love it now and very proud of it, so it's in a good place anyway.
Yeah.
Case 2134, Wimberly versus Mahara. All parties, please step forward.
Tina Wimberly is suing auto body worker Robert Miera for a refund of a 1969 VW Bug paint job.
Miss Wimberly, tell me about this car that you have.
So I have a 69 Volkswagen Beetle. I've had the car for about 20 years
Where did you buy it?
in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Is it a bus or a bug?
It's a Bug.
My goodness, I remember everyone had one of those cars. The whole world had those little bugs when they came out. Except me, scared to death. Okay. Anyway, you've had it for a long time and you tried it. Case is simple. You want your money back for a bad paint job that you say that Mr. Miera did on the car. Okay. So this is a picture of the car before he painted it?
No, ma'am, that's after.
Oh, that's after.
Yes,
Oh, doesn't look bad.
from afar.
Listen, when you're born in 1964, everything looks better from afar. Okay, and that's an interesting color. Do you have a photograph of what the car looked like before you took it in to the defendant?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
But I have pictures of after the bubbling that it's doing.
yeah, I'll take a look at it. Okay. Have you shown these pictures of the bubbling to Mr. Miera?
I have, Your Honor.
And you've seen them, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is the story. You brought your car into Mr. Miera to paint it. He gave you a price. The price was?
Originally, it was $3,500,
What did you ultimately pay him?
It wasn't.
$6,500.
Okay, so you paid him $6,500 to paint it. When had you brought him the car?
In January
Of what year?
2021,
And when did you pick the car up from him?
May of 21. I was moving from Albuquerque, New Mexico to Louisiana, and as May got closer and closer, I kept telling him, I'm leaving, you know.
Okay, the car was there from January until May.
Yes, ma'am.
You picked the car up in May. Was it ready in May?
Yes, ma'am.
When she picked it up?
Yes, it was ready when she picked it up.
When had you painted it?
Probably painted it at the beginning of April.
No, ma'am.
Is that when you started sanding it down, I assume?
Oh,
the
no,
process?
she actually sanded the car down herself.
So the car was completely sanded when you got it?
No, it wasn't completely sanded. We had an agreement that she was supposed to help me repair the car. You know, that's why I gave her a price that I did, because she wanted to help and learn how the process went.
Okay.
So
Just look up for me.
I
A
gave her...
1969 VW Bug.
So I gave her
Found
the
it on the
chance
classic car.
to
Okay.
learn the
But
process.
you say it was ready when she picked it up?
Yes,
Okay. And she showed you the pictures of the bubbling on the car.
yes,
And she paid you $6,500.
yes.
Well, I would have a trouble with that bubbling myself.
Of course, I understand.
So,
I offered to fix the car.
and?
She didn't want to bring it back.
Well, that's trip far to bring it back.
Well, that's all I can do. I can offer to fix it, you know.
Well, by offering to fix it, you acknowledge that I would say, as a layperson, this is not what I would
Well,
expect.
I said
This was not what I would expect
Yes.
if I paid $6,000
Of course.
to paint a car. And what steps, because this bubbling seems to be in various spots of the car, so it's impossible, and I'm a lay person, you know, I went to law school.
Yeah.
I didn't go to mechanic school or painting school, but I've lived a long time, and when you have spots like this on anything, either a wall or a car, you can't just spot fix it, right?
No, you can spot fix it.
It's all over the car, Your
Just
Honor.
a second.
Yeah.
Well, it's been my experience that you can't spot fix it because this is a bright color. It was done now almost a year and a half ago, and you're not going to be able to match colors because car colors like bright ones fade. So if you just do it in spots, it'll look like a leopard.
Well, not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
There's ways to adjust the paint, the color of the paint.
Well,
you can tint the
Mr.
paint.
Miera, she is not bringing the car to New Mexico when she now lives in Louisiana.
Yes.
Because that would cost her. I know I transport cars of mine when I move around, and that's very expensive. Not quite as expensive as the paint job, but close, which would mean she would have to incur a substantial expense to get you back the car from a paint job that clearly was unsatisfactory. Well, that you acknowledge as unsatisfactory because you said,
I didn't
I'll
acknowledge.
fix
I said I'd take care of it in a good gesture to try to make things work with her. I did not deny her any kind of service or say, go get lost until she started cursing at me.
No.
She didn't tell you she was cursing at me, you know.
Well, Mr. Miera, if what I say you would have to do would be to start over, sand down the car, which she did herself, according to you, because if she sanded the car...
She got a discount for working on her... She worked on her own car, so she got a discount for working on her own car. So she had her hand in it as well.
That's terrific. You're going to give her back her money, $6,500. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
I think when she transported the car, the moisture and the climate that she took it to may have played a factor.
I totally disagree with what he said because I took it from his house, put it in another van.
And having the car bubble like that, but you know, I'm not sure. There's a lot of things that could happen.
And the moisture with what he's claiming, there's no way.
I tried to rectify the situation and it didn't work out, so.
Time to get it looking good again.
He never got back to me about how much the 1969 Beetles were worth. And I was surprised because reading the papers, reading a $6,500 paint job, I was surprised at that. Like, that was very expensive to me. But then when I looked up how much the cars are worth, they're worth anywhere between $12,000 and $35,000 for a nicely kept, maintained vintage car, similar to the one that I saw briefly in the photos.
I'm sorry for not getting back to you.
It's okay.
I got caught up.
But I think you made the right call because after the paint job, we saw the damage or the bubbling, and I know that you or I would not be satisfied with that paint job on an asset that was worth that amount of money.
Of course.
So I think the right thing happened.
I'm sorry. Forgive me.
As well as transitional housing programs.
When did you start transitional housing from group homes?
I started that when I was 17. That was in 2021, where I was roommates with Freya, and we lived there.
Okay, and could you describe the facility where you were living?
We were living in Tustin, an apartment complex where they rent out the rooms and they have foster kids go in there and then they pay, well, they don't pay rent, but it's a transitional program to move up to the extended foster care transitional housing program for after you're 18. So it's better to be placed into this one so it helps foundation towards the next one.
Towards total independence?
Yes.
And how long did you stay in that facility? Until when?
Like a few months after I turned 18, I got into the Costa Mesa transitional housing.
Okay, from Costa Mesa, do you go into any other facility through the foster care system, or are you then supposed to get a job and get on your own 2 feet?
So this program, the independent living program, it's really hard for foster kids to get into. You have to be set up with all the requirements. And so...
What kind of requirements? Are there academic requirements?
Yeah, academic requirements, working, going to school, meeting with the manager that comes in every week. Yes.
Were you going to school?
Yes.
What school were you going to?
Golden West College.
Are you still going to school?
Yes, I currently am taking a break from this semester, but I'm still going to continue it.
Are you working?
Yes.
And you're living on your own?
I'm renting a room out in Irvine with 2 different roommates.
And Ms. Brown, what about you? How long have you been in the foster care system, and how old are you now?
I've been in the foster care system since I was 13 years old. I am currently 19.
Tell me where you're living.
Right now, I live in a rented room in a house also in Irvine.
Tell me what you're doing.
Right now, I work in sales. I'm a sales associate.
Is it a full-time job?
It's part-time. I'm also in school. I go to Fullerton College, and I'm a biology major.
Interesting. Are you good in science?
I really liked science in high school, so yeah.
Well, you seem like 2 absolutely delightful ladies. I don't know why you got into this kerfuffle, but each one of you claim that you were assaulted by the other. You claim that Ms. Brown caused vandalism to your car. Ms. Brown says that you had her falsely arrested after this altercation, which seems to be an unhappy event over a guy.
Over a guy.
I mean, they're necessary evils, but over a guy. So, two lovely girls who probably weathered a lot of storms in your life to keep together that most 15, 16-year-olds don't have to do. How could two nice girls get into a kerfuffle over a guy?
I have no idea.
Go.
Okay, so on September 2nd, near 10 p.m., I was cooking us dinner, and Freya's sitting at the counter, and then while I'm cooking dinner, I get a call from my ex, and he's just...
From your ex-boyfriend, not ex-husband.
Oh, yes.
From your ex-boyfriend?
Yes.
Okay. And his name is, what's his first name?
I would prefer...
Let's call him Cat.
Cat, yeah. So
You get a call from Cat. Do you know Cat?
Personally, no, I do not know him.
Have you ever met him?
No, I have not.
Okay. So now you get a call from Cat. And how long has he been your ex-boyfriend?
Well, we just had a situationship, like it was just off and on, but he just called me and I just had him on the phone as speaker and...
So you had him on speakerphone, you're cooking her dinner, she's sitting at the counter.
Yeah, and he starts making flirtatious comments like saying if I had any cute friends near around, and I know it doesn't sound right, but...
It doesn't sound good, Miss Burke.
Yeah, but that's just like, I know him and that's like a different story, but regardless, then
So
Freya...
what was he, I want to know what he was saying.
Well,
you
he
have to
just-
tell me, because she probably remembers what he was saying.
I do.
So if you don't remember, I'll ask her. What did he say?
He asked in general if I had any cute friends near me or any around. Just saying if there was any cute friends near me. So
Okay.
that he...
That's not what happened.
Okay, so your ex-boyfriend calls you and asks you if you have any cute friends around.
Yes.
And you didn't just hang up on him.
Well, yes. I told him, I said that I can't like see him tonight and that he shouldn't be saying that. But the call ended because he had to go because he had to go back to work. So it ended quick.
Wait just a second. He must have said something that annoyed her.
That was it. He just asked
What did he
if I
say?
had...
Okay, you don't remember. What did he say?
He called her, they were talking for a minute, and then she was saying, you know, oh, I miss you, this and that. And he was like, can I come over? At which point she told him, oh, I'm with my two friends. And he was like, oh, what do they look like? Are they cute? How old are they? Which I thought was disrespectful to me and also disrespectful to her. I was trying to be a good friend. I informed her of it. And
No, so he was acting like a guy.
yeah.
You know,
Yes.
think before you talk. There's no filter here. So he's saying, oh, really? You can't come over? You have two friends? Ah, are they cute? Are they nice looking? And just to tell you, Miss Brown, I don't think it was disrespectful. I just think it's a stupid remark.
No,
Do you understand?
I understand,
It's
but
just stupid.
The tone and then the content, because it was on speaker, like I could hear everything. So
So when he hung up, what did you say to her?
after they hung up, I didn't say anything to her. She said to me, she was like, you don't know him, you know, like we're in love.
And you said
She's
to her?
basically saying, I don't know him. So I was like, yes, you're completely right. I don't know him, but I don't want to hang out with him, basically is what I told her.
Well, was he coming over?
No, I was just telling her,
Okay.
like, 'cause
And
he
what's
had
your
asked.
version? After he hung up, let me hear your version of what she said.
Okay, so after I hung up, it was just practically some of what she said, but it was more in an aggressive way and with a lot of attitude. And
Show me.
I get done with the phone and I'm cooking, and then she wants to like humble under her breath and like say like, I don't know, just rude things about the call and like just looking at me weird. And I'm like, what's the problem? And I was just,
Okay, so she's looking at you weird, and you say, what's the problem? And she says,
I don't know. She was going off and about, and then she started throwing trash on my counter and then
That's
threw it
not
at
true,
me.
Your Honor.
Yeah, you did.
That is
no,
not true.
No, I have
Yeah.
to tell you something. So far, it makes sense. But then I don't want you to tell me she just went from nothing disrespect to throwing food around the counter. That didn't happen.
That did not.
Okay, so before she started throwing the trash on my counter, she was saying how that I had attitude, but I was telling her that I did not have attitude. I was trying to de-escalate the situation by talking
She had
to her.
attitude. So far, we're not attitude. So far, she's mumbling.
No, that's what
you
she
said under
said.
her breath.
Yeah, and then so she, I don't know, she would, like I said, it was a snap of a finger. Like I'd never seen her switch like that. And, you know, I was confused. And then after she threw the trash, I told her to grab your stuff and get out of my house. And so I gave her time. She went in my room, grabbed her stuff. I waited by the door. I had it wide open. And she's just cursing and yelling and just like, I didn't want her in my house. And if I would have known she was like that.
No. Let's not. Don't go down any tributaries. When you got out to the car, she had a brick in her hand. Was there any damage to the car?
Yes, I have photos, proof to the left driver's side.
Probably makes sense as you got into an argument. You said to her, you know, he's really not that way. He's really a nice guy, and I love him. And she said, well, somebody who really loves you doesn't say, I want to come over and hang out with your two good-looking friends. That could escalate into something that's angry.
Your Honor. Well, the thing is, when she did mention those things, they weren't calm as you expressed.
Yes.
They were, no, they weren't. They were very aggressive.
They could have been aggressive, but that's...
They were not.
They could have been aggressive.
I didn't see a reason why it should have been that way at all.
Listen, I'm not saying I agree with you or not, but I'm saying that common sense dictates to me that if you're on the phone with somebody that you still like, and that you're an on-again, off-again, and you can't come over today because I have two friends here. Oh, really? You have two friends? Maybe I'll come over and hang out with your two friends. She found that disrespectful. I actually find it disrespectful to you and disrespectful to him. You really have nothing to do with it, Miss Brown. Somebody else was being a schlemiel.
No, I mean, I wasn't saying like...
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so now you tell her to get out, open her things. She's out the door, and?
Well, no, she's not out the door yet. So then I have the door wide open. She comes, and then we're still, like, argumenting, and I'm trying to get her out of my house. She pushes me, and then I go back into... Yes, it is. I go back into the door, and then she starts hitting on my arm, like, hitting me, so I'm, like, defending back, and it was just crazy. Like, I didn't realize I had the door wide open for her to get out, like, peacefully. And
okay, so
that
she
didn't
pushes
happen.
you, she puts her hands on you, you put your hands on her, pushing. And up until that point, there's a lot of maybe pushing, touching the arms, touching the hand, but nobody is injured. Is that a fair statement, standing at the door?
Well, I got assaulted because I have the pictures to show that my nail came off.
No, I'm asking you a question.
Yes.
Up until that time, did your nail come off during that time?
Yes.
Was it a real nail or a fake nail?
Both of my nails came off. Like, it was
on the
top
same
of the
finger, you had a fake nail over your
real nail, and it both ripped off.
Okay,
I have pictures.
I'll take a look. Okay, I see a black and blue mark here that's under here. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yes. That's
and this is on your hand.
Yes.
What was this?
From blocking her hitting me.
What was she hitting you with?
Just her hands. Like, she was just like a cat fight. Like, she just went crazy. And so I was defending her out, trying to get her out of my house.
Okay. Did you respond to her hitting you?
Yes.
Yes. Do you have any photographs?
Yes, I do have
I'd like to
photos of-
take a look. So I see a scratch above your eye and a little bruise on this part of your hand. Is that what it is?
Yes, on my wrist.
And then there's a bruise on, is it this part of your elbow?
My elbow, yes.
Okay, so now you're arguing with each other. You both get banged up a little bit. Now she's outside.
Yes.
And what did you do? You finally got her out the front door.
So after a few minutes, she called me and said, "Warning, I'm at your car." So when I heard that, I called the cops immediately, and I asked them to come down because I think she's gonna be vandalizing my car or God knows what. And then so when that happened, me and my witness, Jasmine, we walked down out of my house because I wanted to go see, like, if my car, like, what was going on. And so as I'm walking out, my car's parked over here. Freya's over here. And so when I'm walking out, then I meet her right here, and she has a brick in her hand. And yeah, she had a brick in her hand the whole time until the cops came, and then they arrested her, and they asked me if I wanted to file for assault and vandalization, and I said yes.
Okay, and when you got out to the car, she had a brick in her hand. Was there any damage to the car?
Yes, I have photos, proof to the left driver's side, and there's a video as well of the neighbor's Ring camera showing her vandalizing my car.
Yeah,
Oh,
let me see the damage, and then I'll see the video.
Thank you.
Okay, now I'll see the video.
Okay.
Okie dokie. That's where you were arrested, Miss Brown?
Yes.
Have you ever seen that video before?
I have not.
You have not?
No.
Okay. Can I see the estimates to the damage
Yes,
to your
ma'am.
car? Tell me when you bought this car.
I bought this car on August 1st in 2022. It was my first car. I paid for it full, all by myself.
You paid for it in cash?
Oh, yes, and a check.
Okay. How long had you been saving for the car?
Oh, I've been saving for it for years, like a few years, ever since I've been working.
How much did you pay for it?
I paid a total of, I believe, $7,300 and something dollars.
I didn't see that when you were out there by yourself picking up a brick, right?
Yes.
And that was a long video. I don't see her in that video at all. I just see you picking up the brick, not doing enough damage, picking it up, doing a little more damage, picking it up, going to another side of the car, picking it up, going to the front of the car. I don't see her there threatening you.
She didn't threaten me at that point.
Right. Clearly, when you left the house, that ugly confrontation had been de-escalated.
It had not actually.
Of course it was, because you were out there by yourself. You could have gone. And if it was an ugly confrontation, you go to the police station and you say, I left my license in my friend's car. We had a fight. Could you come back with me on a standby and get my license instead of using a brick to bash in her car?
My circumstances were different from Autumn's. I would like to inform you of that.
What were your different circumstances?
Well, I was supposed to be moving in 3 days, which Autumn was aware of. So had I called the police and been like, oh, I need this help, then I would have jeopardized my housing.
Oh, no, that's not true. Sorry about that, Miss Brown. If you called the police and merely said to them, I don't want to have an argument with her, that would not have jeopardized your getting into housing. Having this fight and vandalizing her car, that could prevent you from getting into housing.
That's what got me kicked out.
I'm just telling you, calling the police is not an issue. Going outside and for a period of probably at least 60 seconds and moving from different parts of her car and hitting it with a brick and bending down and picking up the brick again, that would prevent you from getting into housing.
I wasn't referring to the calling the police, I meant the fighting.
Oh, I'm not talking about the fighting. $37.75, that's the cost of fixing the car. Now, the only other issue that you have on your counterclaim is for being falsely arrested.
Yes.
I would arrest you for that. You should be. Listen, if I came out of my house and found somebody bashing my property, I don't care if we had a long-standing feud. Well, I have a long-standing feud with her. We had an argument, we had a fight, whatever. That is not the natural progression of having an altercation with an old friend, going out and vandalizing her car. So your countersuit for being falsely arrested is dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,775.
Your Honor, I'm going to be rightfully for losing my housing during that process because of that incident, because of the transitional housing program I was in. I got kicked out of it, and so I had 30 days. So I believe I should be getting for that as well because
Where's the head of the Department of Social Services to testify before me that the reason you lost your housing, if in fact you did lose your housing, was because of this vandalism? You have a witness here to tell me that?
I have the 30 days notice, if that counts.
May?
Yes.
I'll take a look.
Oh, here it is.
This says, letters to give you written 30-day notice to move out of the transitional housing program. You were involved in a verbal physical altercation which involved a weapon with another individual and resulted in the police being called on September 1st, 2022. When you entered the program, you were informed and signed paperwork agreeing to our program rules and expectations. Who was it alleged that had the weapon?
She had a knife.
I bought it as self-defense. I dropped it when I saw you.
Just a second.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
Just a second. Well, just a second. She says the weapon was a knife.
It was.
And the knife was being held by you.
Yes, that's
So you
self-defense.
took... No, it's not in self-defense anymore, madam. It's not self-defense. She's out. She's away from you. Your choice is to call the police and wait. Your choice is not to pick up a knife, because so far, this altercation has been a lot of tussling between girls that shouldn't have happened, but so far, nothing involved a weapon. So you went outside with a knife. And according to the rules, you can't do that. And that was the reason that you lost your housing, because there's no other reason. It said it involved a weapon. And they listed the rules: drugs, alcohol, assault, danger, making threats, Well, you have a knife, that's threat, whatever. 3775, fix your car. You're not allowed to do that to her car. That's a hissy fit. Figure out how to do it. Your counterclaim's dismissed. You should have been arrested for vandalism. Goodbye.
This court is adjourned.
Well, I was in shock. I was like, wow, like over no reason, over my ex calling me, like, come on, like we're adults now. I'm gonna move on with my life and just go up from here and not down here where other people like to take me down to their level. I'm super thankful to have her handle my case today. She is a queen.
You know what I was really impressed with both of those girls, Sarah? You know, I know the foster care system, usually wherever it is, can be a brutal system to negotiate. And these two young women, at least on the surface, appear to have negotiated it in an orderly, reasonable way. I mean, she's living on her own. She evidently worked for a very long time because she saved up and bought her own car. That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
And to even be able to figure out the system, which even as lawyers, sometimes we have a difficult time navigating things in the foster care system, to figure out this transitional program that better sets you up for the next step, that sets you up better for the next step. I respected that she took the time to figure out their best possible options for navigating the system that they were placed in.
Both working.
Yes.
Both going to school to try to get themselves into a better circumstance. The defendant certainly is a biology major, which is fascinating
Not
to
our
me.
thing.
Not our thing.
Great for her.
But clearly, bright young women who made it to a place at age 19 that's really terrific. And supportive of each other because one had a license, one didn't, so they were supporting each other. All very lovely. And get into a kerfuffle over nothing.
It shows just how fast all that work and all that preparation for the next step and for the housing can just crumble.
Can just unravel. Really sad. That's sad. But they seem like